Hello guys, this is What About Nintendo, and today I'm here for some more Luigi's Mansion 3 content. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the differences in graphics between the Luigi's Mansion 3 reveal trailer and the E3 trailer and treehouse footage. So let's get right on into things. So it was a long time in between the reveal trailer for Luigi's Mansion 3 and the actual E3 trailer. So long that people thought it was going to get delayed, but it doesn't seem to have been. It's still coming in 2019 according to E3, though we're not exactly sure when. And given time, Nintendo usually does make lots of graphical improvements for their games, and so I wanted to see what the differences were between the reveal build and the E3 build of Luigi's Mansion 3, and well, it's a lot more than even I expected. So let's jump right on into it. Let's start with the basics: resolution and frame rate. I pixel counted many shots to the reveal trailer, and every single one came out to 1920 by 1080p, or a full native 1080p, and well, the same goes for the E3 trailer. It's kind of boring here, guys. It's the same 1920 by 1080p. Very nice looking game as far as image quality goes. I didn't see any signs of a dynamic resolution, but with the Switch, anything is possible, and I wouldn't be too surprised if that was enabled, though it doesn't seem like it so far. As far as frame rate, I'm disappointed to say it's just as boring as resolution. Both trailers are encoded at 60 frames per second, but each one only updates every other frame, meaning it is a 30 FPS game. But enough of the boring stuff that's all the same. Now is when we get to the big differences, and I swear to you, there are big differences. I'll be going area by area and showing you what's different in each. Let's start with the music area. First off, there are many improvements to textures in this room. Textures above this doorway is more pronounced in the E3 build compared to the pretty hard to see texture actually in the original reveal build. We see a similar story with the silver parts of the wall being more pronounced, though it does show off its lower res nature compared to the reveal trailer's more simplified texture. Same with the texture on the carpet. It is much easier to see in the E3 trailer, although it doesn't look low res like the silver parts of the wall. However, we do see that the texture on this door does appear to be slightly lower resolution than the original build, but I'm not sure if that's just an incomplete asset or something like that, but whatever. At the time of this recording, it does seem to be a downgrade in that one specific place, even though all the other textures seem to actually look much better. But texture improvements are not the only thing that's different. There are also a lot of changes to the lighting in this room. First off, I'd like to point out something that I think may be a bug in both versions. One of the doors with the musical notes goes dark randomly every once in a while, even though the light shining on it is still turned on. This happens in the original trailer and the E3 build. I don't know, maybe this is an intended effect, but it doesn't look right, as all the lights that are pointing at it are still on. I don't see any light actually turn off that would affect this door. So it is very strange. I'm not sure if there's a glitch or if it will be in the final version of the game. But on to actual differences in the lighting. The light from these scones and spotlights is now more white compared to the yellowy look that it had before. It's not really any better, it just makes the room look very different. However, what is better is that the lights from these scones looks much more pronounced and more realistic in the E3 build over the original version. Something that I'm not sure is a downgrade or an artistical change, however, is that the notes on the door seem to cast less shadows in the E3 build. Now on to just general changes and improvements to the game in this room. This decorative piece on the wall above this painting of the piano now has a boo on it and is shaped differently. Also, there was this strange gray blob next to it in the original version that I'm not really sure what it was even supposed to represent, but it has been removed in the E3 version. Debris on the ground of this room has been changed. The original had more debris all over it, also in different places. However, we know that things like debris are usually dynamic elements, so it's likely that some other source, maybe from the bathroom or something like that, or maybe if you blow onto that ticket booth there, it will release more debris. It's kind of just a staple in Luigi's Mansion, but I'd like to point it out anyways. Something about the debris that actually has changed definitively, however, is that this cup has gotten a design change. It seems to be a change to how the transparency of the cup is handled. I prefer the original over the E3, but it's just a matter of personal taste. Neither one is really more true to real life. Oddly enough, there's actually a change to the angry piano painting, as it's gotten a color change to have more red hues. It's not really a big change, but it is something that I thought was odd. Something else we can see in this room that's not related to the room itself, however, is that the ghosts in the room are actually less see-through than the E3 build, and this typically goes for all of the scenes in the trailer. Ghosts just seem to have more to them than they did originally. And finally, a small detail here, but the end of this rope seems to have more polygons at the knot. But that's all for the music area. Let's move on to the dining area. What caught my eye straight away was that these tablecloths have gotten a complete redesign and have a much more satin-like material. Again, the lighting in this room has a different hue than the original. However, this time, instead of being more white, it's actually more yellowish red, which really accentuates the red on the floor and chairs and makes the color in this room pop a lot more. The final change I noticed in this room is that changes to the reflections have been made, with Luigi's reflection being changed from a sharp shadowy reflection with only his poltergust really giving off any color, to a diffused reflection that reflects the color on his body as well. We can also see that the scone's reflections are now properly diffused on that marble-like surface. Next up, however, is not a new area, but rather a person. The main person of this entire game, and that is, we're going to look at the Luigi model. Something you may have noticed right away when seeing the trailer at E3 for Luigi's Mansion 3 is that Luigi's model is just like way better than the original version. I mean, it looks like it was a generational leap in quality here. It's not even close to being on the same level as it was before. If you compare Luigi's clothes from the original trailer to the E3 trailer, you can see that the E3 version is far more detailed. You can see every thread that makes up the L on Luigi's hat, while the denim and stitching his overalls and the fabric of his gloves are all superbly detailed. This is a great improvement over the basic textureless colors that used to be there. There's also some changes to Luigi's face, such as when he scrunches his eyebrows, it no longer moves the actual skin, and that light reacts much more naturally to his face than before. In fact, it resembles subsurface scattering, which is a modern lighting technique to simulate light going into the skin and bouncing around. I kind of doubt that effect is actually used here, but some sort of effect to do a similar job is used. As you can see in the inside of his ears, the parts that are more dense are more red, as should be in real life. And finally, you may notice that Luigi's mustache is now much more detailed in this version of the game. But let's move on to the next area, and that is the garage. And in here are actually a lot of changes that I was not expecting to see. First off, before we look at the room itself, let's look at a move that is being done in that room, the suction move. The normal suction move, not to be confused with the suction shot, has undergone some visual changes. The move is now much less transparent and also has a more tornado-like shape. It's not really any better than the original version, but it is more up to your personal taste which one you prefer. But now onto the room itself. The lighting in this room has a completely different hue, as is normal so far from what we've seen in the trailer, and has more contrast as well as lighting the environment more accurately. Overall, the lighting in this room just looks way more natural than the original trailer. And not just the room, but as I said before, Luigi himself seems to react much better than light in this version of the game, and is much more accurately lit in this scene. The wall by this light also has a much better texture, with the gaps in between the tiles showing some wear, as well as having more depth in this version of the game. The gate behind Luigi has gotten a complete redesign, with more rounded bars, and just being more rounded in general. The metal has also been made to look more smooth than before, except the metal at the very bottom, which now has a detailed tread-plated look. Behind the gate, we now see some fog floating around the environment, which gives the environment a more spooky atmosphere, as you'd expect from Luigi's Mansion. The supports surrounding the gate also seem to be changed to be more like concrete than metal and use different textures and materials. And around these supports, we see that they've changed the placement of the spiderwebs in the room, which isn't really any better than before, again, it's just different. But enough for the room, let's look at the elephant in the room, the big car and trailer. Firstly, light reacts much more naturally to the surface of the car, as well being shinier in some spots with some more bloom coming off of it. The polygon count of a few objects on the car have also been improved, like with the front headlight looking much more rounded and having a better shape. Looking to the back of the car, we can now see that the trailer hitch is connected properly. However, to do so, it seems it was needed to make the car float slightly. It could be that it's actually resting on the edge of this concrete step, but it looks like it's floating. Looking at the trailer attached to the car, we also see it react to light much more naturally, and the materials look much more realistic. For example, the metal rings here holding the straps. We can also see that the straps themselves have better material and texture work, as well as they don't clip into the metal anymore. But that's it for the garage. Let's move into the next area, the hallway. First thing that jumped out at me is that the wanted posters in the room actually look different. Luigi's more zoomed out in it than before. The doors in the hallways have also gotten a redesign. If you look closely, the gold trims and plates are removed, and the color is more white than before. We also see a bit more polygonal detail than we did before. The wallpaper has also gotten an update with a more pronounced texture and roughness, as well as a difference in the way dents are presented, actually looking like proper dents. Rather than the original, they were shaded weirdly so that they kind of look like somebody took a circle cookie cutter to the wall. But let's move on to the final area of the trailer, and that is the bedroom. First, we can see that the bed blankets are made of a different material that's far less shiny than before, as well as the stripes looking much different, being a different shape, and being more yellow rather than gold. We also see that the textures on the bed seem to be completely unfiltered and blur extremely easily now. That doesn't seem to be the case for the original build, or really any other parts of the E3 trailer that I've noticed. Even other parts in this room don't seem to have as harsh texture blurring at angles. So I don't know if this is like some kind of weird development glitch or just some kind of strange thing because the game's not finished. I'm not a developer, so I don't know everything about how this works, but I do know that it looks way worse than pretty much the rest of the game as far as texture filtering is concerned. I also noticed that this chair in the room has gotten a model upgrade, with higher polygon count making it look more rounded than before. It also has a gold shiny trim and seems to be more reflective. And finally, we can see changes to the floor texture, with the yellow stripes now being a shiny gold. Kind of the opposite thing we saw on the stripes of the bed, actually. And the final things have more to do with Luigi than actually rooms in the game. First off is differences in the flashlight. The thing that stood out to me that actually motivated me to make this a segment is that I noticed strange banding issues in the E3 build. Now this doesn't happen in every single scene of the trailer, but in many of them we can see this strange banding artifact that just looks really bad when the light is shining from your flashlight onto some surfaces. This could be from a low quality volumetric light implementation for the flashlight, and since it's not seen everywhere in the trailer, that may have been older footage or from an older build of the game with lower settings. But we also see other changes to the light itself, such as the light hitting the ground being much more diffused than before, and finally the light coming from the flashlight is also more red this time, and we see a bloom effect applied to the light closest to the flashlight itself. And for the final differences I noticed in the trailer, we need to look at the suction shot. The way the suction shot looks in this game has been changed dramatically. The green light from your poltergust is now much bigger, and the holographic light showing you where your suction shot will not hit is much more detailed. The rope itself has been changed to be much thicker and more white, as well as having a knot at the end, and freaks out far less than it did before, having a much smoother animation. Overall, the move just looks way more polished than before. It looked pretty janky in the original reveal trailer. But yeah guys, those were the differences I noticed between the reveal trailer and the E3 build of the game. Overall, I'd say that the E3 build just looks way better than the reveal trailer. It's just a thing of, a lot more development time going into polishing up the game. We see this with a lot of Nintendo games, and it's nice to see such a big upgrade, especially Luigi's model just looking just a generational step up from before. But I may have missed some things in this trailer. You may have noticed some differences that I did not, and I'd like to know if you did down in the comments below, as well as letting me know about what you think of the differences that I showed in this video. Also guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell icon for notifications of all my videos if you don't want to miss out on other Luigi's Mansion 3 videos and other Nintendo themed content as well. Also, please share this video with everyone you know who is hyped for Luigi's Mansion 3. And I'll see all you awesome people later on What About Nintendo. Bye!